you for joining. We are still waiting for some more participants to join. Please state your name in the chat window so that we can begin our course for today. All right. Let's wait another couple of minutes for other participants to join, and then we'll begin the session. Alright everyone, so we'll now begin the session, and I just want to complete it today pretty fast because even I have to do some work. Right, so without any further ado guys, thank you for joining. Rest of the people who are not able to join, the live session will be available to all of you after the course. And today's live session is really important because in today's live session we are going to have some hands-on on PowerShell, CLI, because CLI and other stuff as well. So we are going to dig a little bit deeper inside Azure today. And if you are not familiar about PowerShell or any other kind of command line tool, it will be a bit tricky for you to understand, but I'll be very basic in letting you know how to work with Azure. Right, so yesterday, if I scroll back a little bit, yesterday we were here. We are now going to start with understanding Azure services. Now this is a diagram. This is, you can say it's a PPT which shows different services of Azure. Now Azure has like hundreds of different services, right? We cannot take all of them inside this course. We can only take few of them because a course cannot complete all of these services and features at once. So we'll take only few of them, but these few of them are actually the ones which are most widely used across Azure, right? So you can see we have defined certain verticals logically. We have said that we have compute vertical, networking vertical, data storage, web and mobile, and other services. In each vertical you will see some names, and these are the actual name of the services which you see on Azure. For example, a virtual machine is known as a virtual machine in Azure. We have virtual machine scale set, cloud services, containers. These are just terminologies that you need to have a look at right now. In networking we have virtual network, Azure DNS, traffic manager, express route, and we are going to study about each one of them, right? Not all of them actually, but majority of them, 90% of them we are going to study. So just have a quick look at what are the terminologies. It might not make any sense to you because let's say if you are looking at traffic manager, you might be wondering what is a traffic manager, right? So don't worry about that. I'll let you know later on what are these. Just have a quick look in all of these services. Make sure you are familiar with their names because you are going to use these names a lot in the upcoming classes. I'm just going back to see the number of participants again. So okay, so it has increased a little bit. Alright, so let's start with, I have already shown you the understanding Azure services PPT. So have a look at this, have a look at all the services which are available in Azure. and now we'll move forward. Now, how do you work on Azure? What are your end user tools which you can use to work on Azure? There are plenty of them. Obviously, you have seen the portal. Yesterday I've shown you the portal. Majority of your task you will do from there, right? Because it's a GUI, it's easy to work upon. You just have to do some clicks and everything. But portal is not the only way that you can manage Azure. There is a lot of different other ways and tools which you can use to manage Azure. For example, we have Azure PowerShell. It's actually the normal PowerShell with Azure modules installed on them, so that you can work on Azure with the help of PowerShell commandlets. PowerShell plays a very vital role inside your examination. So whatever you do through GUI, make sure you do it through the PowerShell as well. And all the PowerShell commandlets are available to you in azure.microsoft.com. Step-by-step way to run those commands are also available. So for understanding, you can use GUI, but if you want to clear the examination, let me tell you, you have to be proficient in PowerShell, because around 60% of the questions will be directly or indirectly based on PowerShell. Then there is Azure CLI. People who are not familiar with PowerShell, people who are coming from the non-Microsoft background, like Mac, if they're working on Mac or Linux based environments, they can use Azure CLI, which is a platform independent command line tool. Then there is Cloud Shell, which is an inbuilt tool which is available to you within the portal itself. Let me show you. So Cloud Shell is available to you within the Azure portal. So in the Azure portal, if you click on this icon, right, PowerShell icon, it says Cloud Shell. If you click on this, it's gonna divide your screen and it's gonna open up a small window where you can run your commandlets. So let's suppose you do not have any installation of PowerShell or Azure CLI within your machine, and you just want to run some quick commands. You can do it from here. Now it runs in two manner. You can run bash shell for this, and you can run PowerShell for this. Both of them are available to you. Bash is just like the normal bash command that you use, and PowerShell is for PowerShell, and you can switch between them, right? So you can, if you are proficient with PowerShell, you can switch to PowerShell. If you are proficient with bash, you can switch to bash, and then you can start running your commandlets, right? When you start the Cloud Shell for the first time, it will ask you to create a storage account. So just simply click yes on that. If you see that icon which says create a storage account, just say yes to this, right? What it will do is it will create a small storage account where you can keep your Cloud Shell related files, right? Afterwards, you can run any command that you want in here and it will be available to you. So that's your Cloud Shell. And we also have Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code. Both of them we can use, and in the upcoming modules I'll show you how you can use Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code to do a lot of different things in Azure. Now lesson 3 is managing Azure with Azure portals. So within it's only module 1 that is going on, but this is the lesson 3 with module 1. In module 1, lesson 3, managing Azure with the Azure portals, we are going to see how to use the Azure portal. So right now you already know this is the Azure portal, right? Let me just give you a quick walkthrough of this portal. So this is the portal. Here you already know it's the Cloud Shell. This is your directory and subscription filter, which you do not have to worry about as of now. This is your notification bar. Anything that you do on Azure, any activity, there will be a notification created for that. For example, if you're creating something, the notification will appear in here. There are your settings in here, the settings like what kind of background you want. For example, if you double click on the background color will change, right? So theme you can change and everything, languages you can change, settings you can change which says log me out after inactive. Then help and support you already know, and then you have feedback which you can give to Microsoft. That's your account from where you can sign out, you can change password. That's your contact information in case you want to give contact information like alternate email IDs and everything, you can get it from here. Your permission, and if you want to give Azure some idea about some implementation, you can do it from there. And you can also click on view my bill, which I will show you in a while. this is your dashboard. The first screen that you will see on the once you log on to Azure, it's your dashboard. Dashboard is just like, you can say, the desktop that you have inside Windows operating system. It's just like your desktop. So whatever you create, a shortcut of this will be created in here, or the resources that you use very frequently, they will be appearing, they will appear over here. Or you can also pin any resource onto the dashboard for quick access, right? This is the search bar. Here you can search your resources, services and documents. So everything within the Azure account, it is available to you from here. Just write the name and it will be available for you, and we'll be using it a lot. On the left hand side, so the look and feel of the Azure portal is just like Outlook. Okay, so on the left hand side there is a bar in which you can create a resource. So whatever you want to create, you can go over here and then you can create it. Select whatever you want to create. I rarely use it, but this is one option that you can have. I rarely use it. I go straight away to the services and then I'll create whatever I want over there. For example, let's suppose I want to create virtual networks. I'll go over there and I will click on add. Both of them are same. They are not different. Okay, so they are one and the same thing. You can do it from here. You can create a resource and then you can write, then you can go to networking and then you can say virtual network. That will open up the same thing, which will be opened by clicking on add. So I prefer going from here and then creating them. The other option that you might also have is just below all services there are favorites. So not all of the services will be available to you inside your favorites, right? A limited number of services will be available in here, and there are a lot of different services that you can access. To bring something on your favorites tab on the left hand side, you simply have to click on the star. For example, if I want app dynamics, I will click on star and now the app dynamics will be available to me on the left hand side bar. One more thing, everything in Azure opens up in different panes. For example, if I click on virtual network and if I click on add, so what is happening in here is your previous screen is not getting closed, right? So you can always switch back to your previous screen because it is not getting closed, right? For example, if you click on add, a new screen will open. If you click on add, a new screen will open. It is known as breadcrumb trail, right? We have breadcrumbs which goes in a trail, so it is known as a breadcrumb trail, the format in which it opens. Not very relevant technically, but yeah, good for information. So your panes open in a sequential manner. This is also known as breadcrumb trail. Alright, that's the look and feel of your Azure, right? Now moving on. Subscription. One of the most important thing inside your account is your subscription. Now subscription you can get by going to the subscriptions resource, subscription service, and you can get it from there. Or you can also go to account.azure.com/subscription. There also you will get detailed information about subscription. So let me show you where subscriptions are. Obviously you can get subscription by going to all services and filtering it with subscription, right? It is right there. Or I prefer going straight away by writing inside the search button in here. The multiple options are there, right? You can use multiple operations. So within the services I can see subscriptions are there. Whichever way you want to prefer, you can go with that way, or you can also make subscription on your favorites and you can go. Now I already told you a lot about subscriptions. Subscription controls your financial statements, your cost analysis, right? I have already shown you about them. Apart from that, if you want to dig deep inside your subscriptions, you can click on this manage button which is appearing in here. See, it is all appearing in breadcrumbs. So subscription is not getting closed, new window is opening. So if you scroll back, for example, let's say I want to go to cost analysis, a new window is opening in here, right? Okay, so I was there on overview and I want to click on manage. If you click on manage, there will be a page which will open up, which is account.azure.com/subscription. It is just like, you can say, it's a detailed pane from where you can get a lot more information which you cannot get on the actual subscription tab that you see on Azure. So it's just a detailed version of your subscription. Right, so this is the page that you are seeing in here. Okay, it's taking some time to load. Meanwhile, let me check how many people are now there. Okay, so guys, can you hear me? Thomas, are you able to hear me? Is the voice fine? Please let me know inside the chat window. Everyone, if you can hear me, guys, let me know inside the chat window that you can hear me. So can you hear me, guys? Alright, let me know, please. Guys, can you hear me? Okay, alright, that's what I wanted to know. Okay. Alright, so I just clicked on manage, and you see this is the page which will open up, which will tell you a lot about your subscription again, right? It's a detailed version of your subscription, how many data you have sent outside and how many data you have received. A very detailed information you can get from here. So it's just an extended part of your subscriptions, and you can get more information from here. Alright then, this is your subscription and your accounts.azure.com/subscription, which will be opened by when you click on manage. I've already shown you how to use the Azure portal and account portal. Now lesson 4 is about PowerShell, very important module, and I'll show you how do you connect to PowerShell within this. So first lesson is first chapter within this is Azure PowerShell module. Now PowerShell is Microsoft's proprietary command line tool. It was introduced as you can say as an upgraded version of CMD command line, which is available in Windows from quite a long time, and it has it basically works on modules. Now modules are something that, in a very layman's term, you can define module as a package which contain a set of commands specifically dedicated for a specific purpose. By default, if you go to your PowerShell and if you try to write any Azure PowerShell commandlets, it won't work because the Azure PowerShell module is not installed. Azure PowerShell has a lot of different modules for a lot of different purposes. There is Azure PowerShell, which we are going to use a lot. There is Azure Service Manager PowerShell, which was used for older console and older resources. Active Directory PowerShell is there. Information Protection PowerShell is there. So you just have a look at these modules. A number of modules are there. Now we don't have to go deep inside each and every one of these modules. I'll start with a basic module, which is Azure PowerShell or Azure Resource Manager. You can install it by using Web Platform Installer, or from the PowerShell gallery, or from the MSI packages available in GitHub. I'll show you a very easy way to do that. The very easiest way to install PowerShell on your machine is going to Google and write Azure Downloads. When you go to Azure Downloads, there will be a link which will open up, which will say download Azure SDK and command line tools. The URL for this is azure.microsoft.com/downloads. Now if you click on that, this page will open. All your downloads, all your SDKs, all your command line tools, they all are available to you in here. I'm just going to scroll a bit down and I'm going to command line tools, which says PowerShell and which says Windows install, because I am using Windows. Now once you do this, you know this Windows installer is already available to me, right? So I'm just going to reinstall it and show you how it works. And that is there. open up. So this is the easiest way, and this is the web platform installer way that I am showing to you. In this, what will happen? It will automatically get all the modules which you have installed on your machine, and once it is installed, you can use all Azure related commandlets inside your environment. Now it says it's already installed, but in your system, if it is not installed, you have to install it from here. No need to do anything, just click on install, it will automatically take care of it. Click next and finish, and it will be done. Since in my machine it is already there, so once this is installed, go back to your PowerShell, right, and open it up as an administrator. Right click and open up as an administrator, and once it is opened up, how are you going to log in to Azure? Now if you want to do any work on Azure, first of all your PowerShell should be able to log in to Azure, right? To log into Azure, you have a command which is login-azure rm account. Now you might be wondering, how do I remember these commands? Practice, practice, and practice. There is no shortcut. There is nothing that I can technically make you understand about PowerShell. The more you learn about it, the more you practice stuff in it, and the more you look at the different courses available for PowerShell. Right after this course, maybe I'll run a course for PowerShell as well, or maybe SCCM as well, whichever is preferred. But you have to be proficient with PowerShell in order to clear the examination, and it's a very interesting thing. If you look at PowerShell can do a lot of wonders, and adding PowerShell into your resume is going to be very helpful for you, because AWS has recently introduced PowerShell inside their environment, especially in AWS Lambda. So I don't know if you're following news or not, but AWS Lambda is now PowerShell compliant, or you can say PowerShell, it supports PowerShell, which is a very good thing, because PowerShell previously was known as a Microsoft only command line tool, but it is now getting into AWS as well. So make sure you know PowerShell, or you can join my course later on. The command is login-azure rm account. I'll click and I'll say enter. As soon as I enter, it will give me a pop-up. The pop-up will simply say write your username and password, as simple as that, right? So I'm going to sign in with the same username and password that I was using for my Azure account. Alright, it's gonna give you a pop-up quite some time. I mean, two to three times it will give you this pop-up, which is fine actually. And you are in. Now how would you know that you are in? You know that you are in because you can get your account name, you can get your subscription name, your subscription ID, and your tenant ID. This is something very unique. Every tenant or every organization which is taking an Azure subscription, they have a unique tenant ID. Yesterday I told you, all of us are what? We are all tenants. If we are using Azure, you are a tenant, I am a tenant. Every account on Azure is a tenant, and every tenant has a tenant ID. So how does Microsoft distinguishes between that, whether it's your VM or my VM? It does it based on the tenant ID, because everything is created within your tenant or within your tenant ID. And environment is Azure Cloud, right? We know that. So that's how you connect to PowerShell, and that's how you log in into Azure through PowerShell. Now I'll show you a lot of different commands, but later on. As of now, I just wanted to show you how to log in through PowerShell. Okay, that was PowerShell again. Let me go back to my PPT. Alright, so right now you don't have to worry about all these modules. You already know that we have installed PowerShell via Web Platform Installer. You can also do it by going to the PowerShell gallery and MSI packages through GitHub. Now this is something that you need to search. If you do a quick search for PowerShell through PowerShell gallery or MSI packages, you will get it. Okay, it is again the same installation that you need to do, right? So there are something that you need to do as a homework. Okay, there was a lot of different commands which has changed in Azure. In the classic model, the commands were add Azure account, new Azure VM, new Azure website to create a virtual machine. Now all the new commandlets, they are not changed a lot, but the only thing is RM has been appended in them. RM stands for resource manager. So this new portal, we call it as Azure Resource Manager. The older portal the older portal was known as Azure Service Manager. This one is known as Azure Resource Manager, and I'll let you know why it is known as Resource Manager. So all the PowerShell commandlets will be in the form of Azure RM, new, to create something new. Okay, there is a very basic thing about PowerShell. If you want to create something new, the command will be started with new. If you want to delete something, it will be remove. If you want to modify something, it will be set. If you want to fetch some information, it will be get. So get hyphen, set hyphen, new hyphen, remove hyphen, these kind of commandlets will be there. And all the Azure new console commands will be started with Azure RM, all of them. I mean majority of them. Okay, so now it says create a resource group through PowerShell, create a storage account with PowerShell, and delete a resource group with its resources through PowerShell. Now I want to create all of these things and I want to show you all of these things, but first you need to know what is a resource group. So we'll come back to this demonstration, but first we'll understand what is a resource group, which is very, very, very important. So I'll go back to that demonstration very soon once we complete lesson 5 and lesson 6. Lesson 5 is managing Azure with Azure CLI. So people who are coming from the Windows background, they already know PowerShell. They have been using it to automate stuff, to do bulk tasks, right? They're pretty familiar with that. But what about those people who are not familiar with PowerShell at all? Yeah, for these people, we also have something. For these people, we have Azure CLI, which is a platform independent command line interface, and you can use it. It does not have PowerShell like syntax. Its syntax is something different. So there were two versions of Azure CLI, version 1.0 and version 2.0. CLI 1.0, we don't use it anymore, right? Because it usually have a combination of resource manager and classic uh, portals commandlets, right? And it was also based on node.js. What we currently use and which I also prefer is Azure CLI 2.0, which is based upon Python and which has a different set of commandlets started with AZ. So Azure CLI 1.0 has commands which starts with Azure. 2.0 have commands which start with AZ. CLI can be installed on any platform, Windows, Linux, OS X. It can integrate with your Linux shell scripting tools, and it is there in Cloud Shell. So I have shown you Cloud Shell basically have both of them. It has PowerShell as well as it has CLI, right? From where can you download it? You can download it from, again, the same downloads link that I have shown to you, and there is Azure command line interface. Click on install. It will open up a new page, and this is the page, right? And here choose what kind of operating system do you have. I'll say I have Windows, so I'll go over there and I will say download the MSI installer. Once it is downloaded, right, what do you need to do? You need to install it, and once it is installed, you can run Azure CLI commandlets, which I'm going to show you in a while. So this is downloaded and preparing to install. It is already installed on my machine, so it won't allow me to install it because it is already there, but I'll show you the setup, right? It's very simple. You just have to click next, 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 and that's it. Nothing very detailed in this one, very, very basic, right? So meanwhile, while it is computing the requirements, how you can run Azure CLI based commandlets It's very simple. As soon as you install Azure CLI, reopen your PowerShell if it is already open, close it and reopen it, and just write Azure. Once you write Azure, it will give you a list of all commandlets which you can use with it, right? So it will take some time. So you will see all these commandlets. That's your Azure CLI. So it is actually embedded into your PowerShell itself. You don't need to, import any module or something like that. No, as soon as you click write Azure inside your PowerShell after installation, Azure CLI will be available to you. How do you log in via Azure CLI? The command to log in via Azure CLI is Azure login. That's it. So in PowerShell it was login-Azure RM account. You can also use add-Azure RM account in PowerShell. Remember that both are same thing. Login-Azure RM account and add-Azure RM account, they are both the same thing. They allow you to log in into Azure. But for Azure CLI, it is Azure login. If you click on that, it's not gonna give you a pop-up. So it will give you a pop-up, but it will be a different kind of pop-up, right? So it will open up your account in browser. Click and sign in with the account that you already have, and it will show you that your login is successful. If you go back to your PowerShell and check it, after some time it will be automatically logged in, right? So as soon as your page refreshes, you are logged in. And how do I know that I logged in? Cloud ID, tenant ID, right? Everything is there, but it is in a different format, right? And it has a completely different syntax as well, which I will show you in a while, right? So that's how you log in through Azure CLI. I don't think I need to show you because this is already there on my machine. So click on next. It will be there. If you have any questions in doing it, you can let me know in the chat window and I will help you out. Okay, this is your Azure CLI, right? You already know how to work on it. Its syntax is very much, it will be familiar to the people who are, working on Linux and non-Microsoft environment. And two versions are there, like I told you, version 1.0 and version 2.0, and I already told you from where you need to install it, right? To log in, you have Azure login command, which I have already shown to you, right? With the help of Azure login, you can authenticate to it. Now rest of these things, do not worry about these things. The things that I'm skipping for a reason, because in the last slide it was saying node package manager you have to run for installation, Docker host you have to run. It won't make sense for beginners as of now. So I'm exactly telling you the things which are required for you. So if I'm skipping something on the PPT, it is because I'll be back on those things at the appropriate time. Now is not the time to do it. So now you know the easiest way to install it, because for the beginners you have to know how to install it first and how to log in. Again, I'll create a resource group storage account, and the same thing that I'll do with PowerShell with Azure CLI as well, but after some time. This is the lesson 6, and this is something which you need to understand a lot, because in this lesson we will know why Azure Resource Manager is known as Azure Resource Manager, and what is the concept of resources and resource group. Okay, to do this, I'll be opening my Paint. To understand this diagrammatically, you have to open up Paint. Okay, so yesterday I told you that you have an Azure account, the whole account, right? Where you work on Azure, this is your whole account, right? And within the Azure account, I told you there will be a logical division in the form of what? In the form of subscription, right? And you can have multiple subscription. I told you about that as well. But subscriptions are like financial boundary, okay? And your billing will be based upon the subscription. So let's say this is subscription 1 and this is subscription 2. Okay, that's the first logical division in the on the basis of money, on the basis of cost. Within the subscription you have another logical division in the form of resource group. Might be a new sentence for some of you. What is a resource group now? So within the subscription you have the concept of resource group, and you can have multiple resource group within within a subscription. Okay, 1 2 3 4 5 6, multiple of them. Now what is a resource group actually? A resource group lies within a subscription always, right? It's a logical division again, and it is used to keep the resources which shares the same life cycle. What does that mean? That means if you are creating a VM is not created individually. VM is made up of many different things. First of all, it requires a subnet within which you deploy a VM. If there is a subnet, there will be a network, virtual network. If there is a VM, there will be an IP which will be assigned to it. If there is a VM, there will be a network interface card attached to the VM. If there is a VM, there will be disks attached to it. Now these are individual components, independent components, which are created when a VM is created. Everything that you create on Azure, it is known as a resource. And all the resources, these are all resources, VM, disk, NIC, IP addresses, virtual network, these are all resources. That's why the new console, we call it as Azure Resource Manager. The older console was not based upon this architecture. It was something different which you don't need to know as of now, but this console is based upon resources. Everything that you create in Azure is a resource. Whether you create a virtual network, it's a resource. A virtual machine, it's a resource. Network interface card, it's a resource. Everything is a resource. We call them resources. Now when you create a resource, the resources which shares the same life cycle, they belong to the same resource group. For example, if I'm creating a VM, let's say I'm creating a VM in here inside this resource group. Let's say this is the VM. Will it be logical that I create the network interface card for this VM in a separate resource group? No. Actually, it is not even feasible. I mean, you cannot attach a network interface card resource which is on different resource group with the VM which is in this resource group, right? So, I mean, there are exceptions to do that, but that's a different thing. There are certain things that you can use between resource groups as well, but Microsoft says that if you have some resources which shares the same life cycle, I mean, they are all connected together, it's better to put them in one resource group. For example, if you're creating a VM, make sure you have its NIC card in the same resource group, its disk in the same resource group, its IP in the same resource group, virtual network in the same resource group, so that it will be easier to manage them. Okay? If you have any questions, you can ask me, any one of you. So resource groups are nothing. Resource groups are logical division after the subscription or within the subscription, which allow you, or you can say which ask you that we have to put all our resources in one resource group for easier management of them, so that they are not distributed in a different resource group. In production scenario, why do you create a resource group? That's the main question you might ask. Give me the use case scenario for a resource group. Okay, yesterday I gave you a subscription based division, a subscription based use case scenario in which I told you that if you have multiple business unit, then you can divide your cost by creating different subscription, right? Resource group can be used in multiple different ways. For example, let's suppose you have London headquarters. To logically, so if you have London headquarters and you have created a subscription for your London headquarters office. Within the London headquarters, maybe you have subsidiary teams within it. Now each teams, although they work together, they are actually independent as well. I mean, collectively they work together, but they are different. For example, I'll give you a use case scenario for this. For one of the organizations that I was working with, resource groups were created based upon the projects. So although subscription is one, I mean, you are working within the London headquarters, let's say, your costing is one, but your resource group were created on the basis of your project. So okay, this is the project for company A that we are doing, put it inside resource group 1. This is the project for company B, put it inside resource group 2. Why? Because you want to logically keep the project that you are doing in one resource group. Now it can be a project, it can be something that you want to isolate from other resource group. It can be anything. Projects are just an example I'm giving to you. Now there are most of the IT consultancy companies, what they do is they also take for example, let's suppose there is a company TCS or Infosys, they take projects from multiple different vendors. So they can create resource group for each vendor, and then they can create their related VMs and everything inside that resource group. Now think of resource group as individual teams, right? You can say, if you look at your office, you create teams based upon projects, right? So you can assign them, each one of them, their own resource group, and they will work only inside the resource group, because you can assign role-based access control on resource group. You can tell them that your boundary lies within this resource group and you can only work on it. So let's say you have a project for a company A, which you have assigned to resource group A here, and then you have resource group B in here, and this will have all the VMs and all the network and network interface card, all the resources which will be used by company B's project. They won't interact with each other. The administrator who will be working, or the people who will be working on this project, you will give them access only on this resource group. People who will be working on this project, you will be giving them access on this resource group only. So resource group is a logical division, but it is not based upon cost. It is based upon the life cycle of the resources that you are going to use, or logically grouping your resources together. I'll now switch back to the live chat to see if you have any questions. Okay, I got a question from Mohit which says it is mandatory to keep all VM components into the same resource group. It's not mandatory to keep all these VM components inside the same resource group. So like I said, there are certain exceptions to this, but if you keep your resources in one resource group, it will be easier to manage. That is the main thing, right? So it's not mandatory that you should put everything inside the resource group. There are certain resources which are mandatory to keep inside one resource group, but there are certain exceptions to this, which I will show you later on. So yeah, majority of resources should be there in the same resource group, but you can move resources within resource group. That can be done. There are exceptions to this. Alright, any other question, guys? Let me know, please. Anything? Okay. So this is the concept of resource group. I think you all got it, right? So now let's understand it. What is resources? Resources are individual building blocks of Azure-based solution. Like I told you, your VM, NIC and everything. It is managed by resource provider. Now resource providers are, if I explain this to you, I think this is not the right time to tell you about resource provider. So as of now, just remember what resources are, right? Resource group, it's collection of resources, typically represents common life cycle of its resources. Typically represent. It never says mandatorily. It is commonly used to delegate permission to its resources. Like I said, you can create users and assign them permission specifically to a resource group. Now, if you give permission at the resource group level, those users will automatically have permission within all the resources inside that resource group. Okay. You can also aggregate billing data and audit events of its resources. So you can resource group will not be used only for collecting your resources which shares the same life cycle together. It can be also used to manage your environment. So you can get resource group specific billing information to you as well. So inside your subscription, if you want resource group specific billing, that can also be available to you, right? So that way you can know, okay, this project has costed me this much money inside my overall subscription. Very, very helpful for you in getting an approximate cost. You can audit events, so you can see who has logged in, who has worked inside that resource group, which person has changed anything inside that resource group. That is also available, and each resource belongs to one resource group only. A resource always have one resource group and one subscription as well, right? So if you create a VM within a subscription, it has one subscription and one resource group. Every resource should have one subscription and one resource group. That is mandatory. Without the resource group and subscription, you cannot create any resource in Azure. Role-based access control is there, like I told you. So there will be users who you can assign to a resource group, which I will show you later on. Tagging is there. Tagging is a process by which it's simple tag, right? So you're tagging your resources, that this resource is something that I'm going to use. I'll show you. It will be more feasible to you once you see it inside your practical part. You can create templates out of resource groups. Template means, let's suppose I created a resource group with 10 virtual machine, 2 virtual network, 10 NIC card, so and so on, with multiple resources. If you want exactly same resource group, you won't be doing it manually, right? Just like you are doing it with the first resource group. So if you want to create or automate this stuff, there are templates available to you, JSON based templates available to you, which you can simply deploy, and the same environment will be created for you without any manual task. Templates also I'll show you. And policies and lock, you can implement locks on resource group or resources as well. Locks save your resources from accidental deletion. And policies are there, so you can implement policies within your resources. All of them we'll see now. Okay, so resource groups are clear to you, right? Now we'll see the example of resource group. So first of all, let me go ahead and see your resource groups. Okay, so sound is little low. Let me just reconnect again.
So guys, is it fine now? Can you hear me? I guess it will be better now, right? Okay. All right, so we were discussing about resource groups, right? Now to create a resource group, you can go to left hand side, it says resource group, or you can go to create a resource, and from here you can also go to, you can search for resource groups and it will be available to you and you can create it. I prefer going over here, clicking on resource group, and this is my resource group tab. As you can see, I have multiple resource groups already created from my previous session. I'm going to create a fresh new resource group. Let's say the resource group name is YouTube Live, right? Resource group also requires a subscription because, like I told you, resource group resides within the subscription. So I have my subscription, my Azure subscription. If you have multiple subscription, you can click on drop down and you can select which subscription you want to create this resource group. And everything that you create in Azure, they require a location where you want to create it, a region. So a lot of different regions are available to you. You have to choose in which region you want to create it, right? I prefer South Central US because in my subscription most of the regions are not available because it's a training subscription that has been offered to me by Microsoft. So YouTube Live is the resource group name. It is within the Azure subscription that I have, and it is on the location South Central US. Click on create and my resource group is available to me. You can See, in the notification bar, a notification is created, so you can go to that resource group. You can pin it to dashboard, shortcut will be created. Otherwise, you can simply say refresh on this page and YouTube Live resource group is available to you. If I click on that, this is my resource group. So you can see it is going into a breadcrumb fashion. Okay. All right, this is my resource group. And do I have anything inside my resource group? No, it says no resources to display, right? First of all, let me show you before creating any resource, the concept of locks. Now lock, what it does, it saves your resource groups or even resources from any accidental read-only lock. People can only read whatever resources are there inside this resource group. They won't be able to modify it. If you create a delete lock, people will not be able to delete it. So let me put up a delete lock, then only it will be deleted. Okay. Let me also show you policies. Now what are policies? Policies are the way your resource group will be compliant to you. Now policies in itself is a very big topic, so I don't think I would do justice to this if I start this topic right away. So as of now, for your understanding, you can say that policies are some sort of compliance policy that you apply to your resource group, so that whatever you mention inside the compliance policy. So if you're saying if you're creating a policy that all my VMs should have anti-malware installed on them, and that's the policy that you're creating, and that policy you're applying to the resource group, all the VM should have the anti-malware installed on them in that resource group, otherwise it will throw you a non-compliant resources notification. More about it later on. It's there, we'll discuss it in detail later. It's something which is big, so it has to be taken later on. Okay, now after this there is the concept of resources. How do you deploy resources to this? Now you can deploy resources within the resource group by clicking on here and saying create resources, whichever you want to create, or alternatively you can go on to the left hand side and select whatever you want to create. I want to create a virtual network, right? Now don't worry about how to create a virtual network, what are the things that I'm doing in it, because second module is dedicatedly available for virtual network. I just want to create a resource, and virtual network is the very simplest of all resources. So I'll click on add. This pane will open up. I need to give this virtual network a name, so I'll say YouTube virtual network. I need to give an address space to this. 3 address spaces you can use, which I will let you know later on. Private IP address space is there. By default it is this. Don't go deep inside these nomenclature. It is coming in the next module. I'm simply going to create it. What you have to look at right away is the address space that I'm giving to it, the subscription. Every resource I told you have to be a part of a subscription, and here I have to choose which resource group I want to put it in. So I'll be selecting YouTube Live because I already have multiple resource group. Location is there. Subnet address range, let's keep them basic and create. I just need a resource within my resource group to show you, right? Okay, see the notification from here. Once a resource is taking some time, because some of the advanced resources may take 5 minutes or even 10 minutes. You can follow the activity from the notification bar. It is created, so I can click on go to resource, or otherwise I can refresh it. YouTube Live virtual network is available to me, and this is my virtual network. Now we'll talk about virtual network later on. Let's see whether it went to the same resource group or not. So I'll go to my resource group, YouTube Live, and what do I have within it? I have my virtual network in it. That means this resource group is part of what? It's It's part of, sorry, this resource virtual network is part of what? It is a part of YouTube Live resource group. So it's like a container. I also told you that you can give role-based permissions to it. Now again, that's a very big topic which will come later on, but just to give you introductory idea, every resource group or resource in Azure will have access control IAM on the left hand side. Here you can define which role you want to give to which user. For example, if you click on add and let's say you want to give owner role to, I have multiple user to, let's say John Smith, you can simply say save. So what John Smith will have? John Smith will have owner access to this resource group. That means automatically he will have owner access to the resources within it because permissions are inherited, right? So that's your IAM, which we will discuss a lot in the appropriate module, but just to give you a brief idea, it is there. So that's the resource and that's the resource group which we were talking about. Now let's go to PowerShell. So we already know how to create a resource and a resource group. How about deleting it through PowerShell? Now to create it through PowerShell, guys, you need to search for the command and you need to create it. You need to practice it, right? I'm going to show you how do you delete the resource group and what will happen if I delete the resource group. Obviously, whatever resources are within it, will it be deleted or not? Let me know. So if I delete a resource group, what will happen to the resources within it? Will they be deleted or will they exist? Let me see what are your answers. So if I delete the resource group, what will happen to the resources? Anything? Okay, let me tell you. If I delete the resource group, the resources will go away. It will be deleted. Why? Because I showed you through the diagram that the resources exist within the resource group. If that container is gone, your resources, where they will exist? They will not automatically be a part of any other resource group. They will remain inside the same resource group, and if that resource group is deleted, they will be gone. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to delete the resource group. So what is the command to delete something? The command is remove hyphen. Every command in Azure starts with Azure RM. And what do I want to delete? I want to delete the resource group. So that will be the command. Press tab. If you press tab in PowerShell, command will be automatically completed. So remove hyphen Azure RM resource group. But which resource group? I have to give some name, right? So I will say, okay, I will say hyphen name. What is the name of my resource group? YouTube Live. So I'll say I want to delete this resource group. I'll say okay. It says, are you sure? Yes. Press Y. And it's gone. Right. So it will take few moments because it is also deleting the resources within the resource group. But you will see once this command is completed, your resources and your resource group both are gone. Okay. So we'll keep it running and we'll come back to this later on. Now what's your task? Your task is to create and delete resources through PowerShell and through Azure CLI. Okay. The commands, now you might be asking, where do I watch the commands? Where do I get the commands? Yesterday I told you you can get it from azure.microsoft.com. Now whatever you want to study, how do you go ahead and study it? Go to the products first. Now you want to discuss about what? You want to know about resource group. Okay. So go to Azure Resource Manager, documentation, and tutorials. Every one of them will have some sort of tutorial available to you. So in the tutorial, go to resource groups and Okay, it's not in here. One second. Okay, instead of going from here, simply write Azure PowerShell create a new resource group. Right, simple search, and it will give you the command to do that with step-by-step way. Right, this is the command new hyphen Azure RM resource group. To remove it is remove hyphen Azure RM resource group. To create its new hyphen Azure resource group, and the commands are also there. Right, you give the name of the resource group, you give the location, it will be created. Step-by-step manner commandlets are available to you. All you need to do is do a quick search and practice it. Practice a lot. Okay. Similarly, if you do it for Azure CLI, it will also be available to you. So that is also there. So make sure you do it. And now these are just the same thing that I've discussed to you. So resource group serves as a logical grouping of your resources, and it support moving of resources. You can move certain resources from one resource group to another resource group. That is possible. But resources should exist in any resource group. That's the main thing. One of the most important thing, if you're moving resources from one resource group to another resource group, they should be a part of a same region. If they are not part of the same region, you won't be able to move them. So moving of resources is possible, but only when they lie within the same region. So if you have two resource group and they are both in South Central US, you can move resources between them. But if one is in South Central US, another one is in West India, you cannot move them. Source and target resource groups are locked during move. That means lock means if you are moving any resource from a resource group A to resource group B, at that time, at the movement, when you are moving the resource, at that time you cannot do anything in the resource group. They are locked. Once the moving of resources is complete, then only you can do. For cross subscription moves, subscription must be associated with the same Azure AD tenant. All dependent resources must move together. Leave this. We'll talk about this later on. So I like Microsoft official courses, but I also know that they are not designed keeping in mind the way the beginners work, right? So this course was not meant for beginners. We are using it as our step-by-step procedure. So there are certain things that I need to skip as of now so that beginners can understand. I know obviously advanced people will be able to understand it very frequently, but leave this. I'll let you know about this at the appropriate time. Not all resources support the move operation. That is very, very important. Whenever I say you can move resources, or whenever I say all resources have to be a part of same resource group, there are certain exceptions to that. Okay, you cannot move all resources from one resource group to another resource group. We'll talk about those exceptions in the practicals. Now, Azure Resource Manager deployment methodology. What does this mean? It means how do you deploy resources on Azure? So you already saw that you can do it through PowerShell if you want GUI. Sorry, if you want command-based interface, or you can use Azure CLI as well, right? That these two things you can use to create something or delete something or manage something on Azure, right? But these are imperative in nature. These command line tools are imperative in nature. What do you mean by imperative? Anything which goes on a sequence, these kind of commands are known as imperative commands or imperative programming language or scripting language. So any language which goes in a step-by-step manner. Now this is something a little bit about developers. So in a very layman's term, whenever you create in a step-by-step manner, because if you write the PowerShell commandlets, they have to be in sequence. You cannot say I want to create VM first, then I'm going to create a disk. That doesn't happen in PowerShell. In PowerShell, you have to step-by-step go and reach your goal. So you have to start with create a resource group, then you have to deploy a resource in it, then you have to create the network interface card or virtual network first of all, then subnet, then network interface card, then disk, then VM. Step-by-step process you need to follow. So once you do this, This kind of approach in programming or scripting language is known as imperative approach. Second one is declarative approach. Declarative approach is the approach in which you give the end state. You describe the end state. You say, okay, I want a VM, right? I want a VM. You mentioned it inside the declarative scripting languages. And if I want a VM, whatever things are created, I will need an NIC for this, I will need a disk for this, I will need a virtual network for this. Okay, I know these things, but I don't want to go in a sequence. In declarative scripting languages, you use template-like structure which can or cannot be in sequence because it does not affect if they are not in sequence. They basically aim at what your end situation is, what your end result is. So they basically look at your end result. They say, okay, you want this. We don't care what kind of template you are creating. We will help you reach your end goal, right? So any kind of sequencing related task is not available to you in declarative deployment. The most common example of declarative deployment is your Azure Resource Manager templates, which I'll be showing you in a while. They are basically in JSON. They describe the end state like I was saying. It is important in nature. It supports versioning. That means you can modify them, create a new version out of it, and you can roll back and go back to the previous version as well. And it allows for OS configuration via VM agent extension. Skip this. We'll talk about VM agent extension later on. Let's see what is declarative scripting, or what is declarative template that you can use in Azure. Okay, to use a declarative statement or declarative template, I'll go back again to Azure, and as you can see, if I refresh this resource group will be gone, right? So if I refresh this, YouTube Live is gone, right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a new resource group, again with the name of, let's say, YouTube Live, and same South Central US, create. And once it is created, within the resource group I'm going to create another virtual network just like I did, right? Same environment I'm creating again. Create. You see, same options are available to you. So whichever one you use, whichever path you use, it will lead you to the same end result. Okay, so a resource group with a virtual network is created, right? Very basic, the same thing that we have just did. Now what if you want to have this same environment available to you again? I'm giving you a very basic environment in here with one resource group and one resource. Think about one resource group will with let's say 50 resources. Would you be able to create it one by one through GUI? Of course you would be able to create it, but how much time it will take? A lot. To avoid these kind of situations, in Azure, obviously PowerShell and CLI is there, but again in PowerShell and CLI you have to go step by step. You have to provision everything in a step-by-step manner. So there is another method as well in Azure which is known as the declarative method of using JSON based template. So once you go to this resource group, and if you scroll down, there is an option which says automation script. If you click on this, there will be a template available to you, and this is the template which is available to you in the JSON format. It says the name of your virtual network, it says the name of your subnet, right? Now if you are not familiar with JSON, that is fine. We are not going to study JSON in here, but you should know that this template is reusable in nature. You can download this template from here, and then you can redeploy this template by making changes as well. Okay, so if you want to create the same environment again, make sure you download it. If you are good with JSON, you can even write your own, or you can customize this as well according to your own requirement. And if you deploy this again, The same resource group with the same resources will be available to you. Okay, so to avoid creating things manually again and again, you can make use of template. In the automation script, only templates are not available. The equivalent PowerShell command is also available. So if you click on PowerShell, you will see the equivalent command or script to create the same environment that we have just created through PowerShell. Through CLI it is also available. Through .NET it is also available. Through Ruby it is also available. Whichever language you think you are good at, your environment will automatically show you an equivalent script for that in all these different languages. Okay, so if you're not very familiar with scripting languages, be familiar with them, because a lot of automation you will do, and in Azure you will require a lot of these languages. So it's not like you have to learn all of them. Just choose the one which is really, which you think is really easier for you to understand. For me, it was always PowerShell, right? I'm also into Python, but I majorly do work on PowerShell because I'm a Microsoft guy. So you have to choose which language is good for you. PowerShell, Python, .NET, Ruby, right? JSON. JSON is actually very widely used in AWS and Azure, uh, both of these platforms. Okay, so that is there. Now, one more thing which I wanted to show you is after the PPT. Okay. All right, so this is your declarative template, JSON based template. This is the template, right? And when you create a JSON based template, this is the syntax that you will see. Content version, which version is there, like I told you, versioning is available, parameters, variables, resources and outputs. Now if you're coming from the development background, you might already know about these things. What are parameters, right? For example, your location can be a parameter. Your variables, what is the information that you're going to feed inside it. Your resources, that means whether you want to create a virtual network or an NIC, and your output, what you will receive as an output. These are all there inside your JSON. If you don't know about it, no need to go deep in it, right? Just know that how to deploy it. As an administrator, based upon your work, you might or might not be asked to create these templates. But one thing which will be surely there is to how to use them. So you should know how to use them, how to deploy them and create resources out of it, which I'll show you in a while. Okay, so these are the components. It has different function types. Same function types are there in any language. You have numeric or integer, whatever you call it, strings, arrays, deployment value, and resources. So it's the basic scripting or programming language data types which are available to you. How do you deploy these templates? That's the main question, right? How do you deploy them, or how do you reuse them? To deploy them, multiple ways are there. If you want to do it through PowerShell, this is the command, new-azure rm resource group deployment. Do try this. This is your actual homework to do this. You can also use this Azure CLI to deploy it. What I'm going to show you is, I'm going to show you how to deploy it through GitHub, which is the new thing. That is the new thing that I'm going to show you. Okay, so what is GitHub again? GitHub is a repository which is used to store your code, application code, in a very layman language. It is also used for version control, right? And it has been recently acquired by Microsoft. What we do in GitHub is we use GitHub to store all kind of codes, all kind of scripts, all kind of templates. So there is a URL which is github.com/azure, right? If you go to this URL, or Azure related scripts created by people who are working in production like you and me, who have created and uploaded it on this, they are all using it. You can see an already created script in this. You can see an already created template on this. So everything is available to you, and you can also upload good stuff. If you create some very nice script, you can upload it over here, and if you create a very nice template, you can upload it over here. So it's a community URL, and you can use it for various things. If you create a JSON template of your own, you can go to Azure Quick Start Templates, and you can upload your template in here. There are certain templates which are already available in here, as you can see, right? I'm going to use one of the template in here. So very simple template I'm going to use in it. Many templates are available, so let me see if I can find very basic one. I don't think there will be a basic one in this, but okay, let me choose the most common one, which is this one. 1 VM, 2 NIC, 2 subnets, and 1 VNet. So this template I'm going to use. This template will create 1 VM with 2 network interface card, 2 subnets, and 1 VNet in it. Now, since I haven't told you about virtual networks and subnets and NIC and VMs as of now, so don't worry about how they are created. Just worry about how to deploy it. So if you want to deploy a template, you have multiple options. You can deploy it through PowerShell command, CLI. There is also an option in here itself, right? When you go to any resource group and you have a template available to you, simply click on the deploy button in automation script, and that template you need to give over there, right? For example, okay, I think this is stuck. 1 second. Okay, first of all, you need to download. Your template is downloaded in a zip file. Then you can go to deploy and deploy a custom template, right? Here you can select a template. Either you can get it from GitHub or you can build your own template in editor, right? Click on build your own template in editor, and from here you can say load file. Which file you can load? This file, which I have already exported. Right? This is the template which has been created, JSON template, right? Once I click on custom deployment, click on the load file and select that file that you have created or you have downloaded. This is the template file. Click on open and see the same file has been opened up for you, right? And then click on save. That's it. That's the easiest way to do it. Or you can upload it on GitHub, just like this template is uploaded over here, and you can click on visualize. If you click on visualize, it will give you how the environment will look like on Azure. I mean, if this template is deployed on Azure, it will represent diagrammatically to you that how does it look like. Now in here it is not actually clear because it's a very old template, but you can see that these are two NIC. I don't know if you are able to see it or not, but these two are NIC. This is the VM. Actually, this is the virtual network connected to the NIC, right? So yeah, it's not good looking as of now in the visualization, but you can visualize your template. What are they going to create from once you click on the visualize button? Second thing is, from GitHub directly you can deploy these templates to Azure by clicking on deploy to Azure. And once you do that, these templates are automatically loaded from GitHub to your Azure portal. Same in the custom deployment. Here you need to give your virtual machine information, your resource group information, some of the customization you need to do, and then click on purchase and it will be automatically created. So all you need to know is how to deploy them as of now, right? Any questions that you want to ask, let me know. All right. No, Bhaskar, this recorded session. No. Yeah, this recorded session will be available to you after this, so don't worry about that. Right. So this was templates which I was talking about. I have already shown you the template how to do them, and this was module 1. So now we have introduction to Azure completed. Next weekend we'll start with the module 2, which is about virtual networks. Very interesting module, many things to cover in that, and that's where you will get a lot of you can say hands-on practicals. So make sure whatever we have done in the last two classes, in these two classes, you are proficient in them. You should know about PowerShell and CLI commandlets about them. In the next class of virtual network, you will see how virtual networks are created in Azure and how great they are in Azure and how to work on them. So that's what we are going to discuss in the next session. Thank you everyone who are watching these live and who will be watching it later on. So thank you so much. It's because of your interest in the course that I'm going to complete this whole Azure course, and at the end of the course, obviously, you know that there will be a questionnaire session in which I'll be discussing the exam questions. So I hope most probably after this whole course you will be able to give your examination. But do your hard work whenever you get time. Do the homework that I'm asking you to do, and that way you will be able to clear your examination in your very first attempt. So all the very best to you. I'll see you next weekend, probably at around the same time, night time. And till then, have a very good day, or very good evening, or very good night, and I'll see you next week. Thank you.